Mhm.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everybody.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Good morning.
Hein? Ça marche? Moi, j'entends rien.
Morning everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hein? Is he going?
More people are joining.
Hectic.
Maybe
Edith, excuse me, you're on mute.
okay, I unmute. So, good morning, everybody. In the name of the Chamber of Commerce, we are very pleased to have you today on board for the webinar and the mission briefing. My name is Edith Stein. I'm responsible for Southeast Asia at the Chamber of Commerce. We organize this program with the great support of BeluxCham, and we are very happy to guide you today through this webinar and briefing. I would also shortly give the floor to my colleagues, Regina and Vanessa, to present themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Regina Khvastunova, and I'm an International Affairs Advisor at the Chamber of Commerce. I'm really looking forward to meet you all in Vietnam, and on this project, yes, we work together with Edith and Vanessa from the side of the Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce and with colleagues from the BeluxCham. So I wish you a productive session today and see you very soon. I suppose I would like to grant the floor to Vanessa, yes.
Thank you, Regina. So good morning, everybody. My name is Vanessa Kirsch. I'm the administrative assistant from the Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce. It's a pleasure to work with you and be part of this mission, even if it's only for the administrative part. And it's also a great pleasure to work with such a great team. So I wish you all a great stay and much success.
So now we would like to give the floor to Kim and her team.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon here from sunny and warm Ho Chi Minh City. So we're very excited to be able to organized this mission together with the Chamber of Commerce of Luxembourg and have been working for many weeks, actually months, with the team of the Chamber of Commerce of Luxembourg. So we're really looking forward. It's another 2 weeks going. So we're really looking forward to meeting all of you in person. It feels like we already know you a little bit from all of the questionnaires that we received and the contact that we have had with the different companies here in Vietnam to make sure that everything runs smoothly for you. So my name is François, and I'm Executive Director from BeluxCham, and I am here together with my colleague. You introduce yourself. So Nguyen is our office executive, and you will meet her all in person in Ho Chi Minh City. She's now hosting this Zoom session, so she will be the one coordinating all of the presentations. So for today's agenda, I continue, Edith? Yes. Okay. So for today's agenda, we will first start with an overview of the economy of Vietnam by Andries Gryffroy, who is the chairman of BVA. And then we will get an introduction in why Vietnam is a destination for your business success by the trade counsellor Tran Ngoc Quan from the Embassy of Vietnam in Brussels. And then business culture of Vietnam by Ms. Nguyen Binh Diep from BVA. And then I myself will give, together with Regina and Edith, an overview of the program of what's coming for you in 2 weeks' time, early May, when you all arrive here in Ho Chi Minh City. So I would now like to give the floor to Mr. Andries Gryffroy, the chairman of BVA, for his presentation about the economy of Vietnam.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you to be here in this meeting, preparing your trade mission to Vietnam. I think that's, first of all, a good idea to prepare it a little bit with the doesn't and the don'ts when you go to Vietnam. And I will present you some evolutions and trends of the Vietnamese economy. But first of all, I want to tell a little bit about who we are as Belgian-Vietnamese Alliance. Next slide, please. In fact, we are working together with BeluxCham. BeluxCham is based in Vietnam and is taking care about the Belgian companies who are already based in Vietnam and trying to have more contacts between each other. And we are based here in Brussels as a Belgian-Vietnamese alliance. We were founded in 2011, and we are also an accredited Chamber of Commerce, just like BeluxCham is. But we are also a structured partner of Flanders and Investment of Trade. And what we try to do is, of course, to enhance the cooperation between Belgium, Luxembourg, Vietnam in economic, but we have also the two pillars, social and the culture fields. And we try to be, let us say, the most reliable partner for the institutional and the economic partners. Our team is mixed. One of our staff member, Maria, is also here with us. Maybe she can just say hello to everyone. So she is a full-time staff member working for the BVA. And for the rest, we have a board of around 16 persons. 50% are Vietnamese living in Belgium. 50% are Belgian people who has somewhere a connection with Vietnam, or because they are doing business, or because of other reasons. If I have to be very honest, my reason why I'm connected with Vietnam is that my two children are adopted children from Vietnam. At the moment, they are 28 and 26 years old. So they are living already 28 years here in Belgium. Next slide, please. So what we do as an Chamber of Commerce, of course, visits and presentation of the BVA member companies, networks, business to business, information sessions, exclusive seminars, but also, for example, we have organized Vietnamese language courses for entrepreneurs, but also for other ones, sharing experience and testimonials. We have also a newsletter each 2 weeks, and we try to promote also the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement by organizing roadshows with the collaboration of the different trade agencies. But on this point, I come back a little bit further. Next slide, please. Sometimes if people talking about Vietnam, they're talking about rice fields, they're talking about the sea, they're talking about Ha Long Bay, but Vietnam is much more than this. We call that also the Golden Capital of Southeast Asia. And I give just some picture. Sabeco is, I think, at the moment in Southeast Asia, the biggest beer brewery in Vietnam. They have VinFast, the Vietnamese car. They have even full electrical cars. At the moment, they have a shop in Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Paris, where they try to, let us say, make some concurrence with Tesla, etc. But it's a full electrical car. They have also full electrical scooters. I've seen them also already in Saigon. You have, for example, Sunworld. Sunworld is in Bana Hills. It's like we have here also in our country that kind of parks where you can entertain with everything what you can imagine, like Disney World, etc. So that they have also very high buildings from the Binh group. Next slide, please. But if you look to let us say the more common part, what they are, where they are ranked now, Vietnam is ranked now at the 7th place of the 190 countries which was analyzed in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business survey from 2020. It's the second largest coffee exporter. It's also the second country leading in rice production. Is considered as the world's leading exporter of cashews and black pepper. It has 8 UNESCO sites. The most important is, of course, Hue, Hoi An, Ha Long Bay. It has the largest cave in the world, the Song Dun Cave. It's also located in Vietnam. The Vietnamese year is known as a Tet. They have the home, as the home also of the water puppetry. And pho, what you know of the soup, for example, banh mi and ao dai, or for example, 3 Vietnamese words that have been also added to the Oxford Dictionary. Next slide, please. If we talk about Vietnam as a business country, it's still in a shift from the centrally planned economy to a market economy. And this has transformed the country from one of the poorest countries in the world into, at the moment, a middle income country in almost 1 generation. Talk then about poorest country till 1990, and at the moment they are a middle income country. They are one of the most dynamic emerging countries in the Southeast Asian region. The GDP per capita increased 3.6 times during between 2002 and 2021, and the poverty rates declined from 14% in 2010 to 3.8% in 2020. And Vietnam has grown bolder in its development aspirations, aiming to become a high-income country by 2045. That's their target. They want to be a high-income country by 2045. To achieve this goal, the economy would have to grow at an annual average rate of 5.5% per capita for the next 25 years. But it also aims to grow in a greener, more inclusive way, more sustainable, and has committed also on the COP26 to reduce their methane emissions by 30% by 2030, and achieving also the net zero carbon emissions by 2050, just like we try to do here in Europe. Next slide, please. Vietnamese GDP advanced, and what I said, we need this 5.5% during 25 years, but already if we look in the second quarter of 2022, they advanced with 7.7%, and in the third quarter, we talk about 13.7%. We see that industry and construction is growing up from 7.7 to 12.9, services from 6.6 to 18.9, so this is becoming a very important part, and agriculture 2.8 to 3.2. In Vietnam, industry and construction constitute the biggest sector of the economy. It's about 41% of the total GDP. And yet in the past 6 years, the growth in services outpaced significantly all other sectors. And today services account for 37% of the GDP. So you see that services and industry and construction is almost 80%. And the rest is then agriculture, forestry, and fishing. So this means also agriculture is still very, very important. For the full 2022, they expected to grow with 6 to 6.5%, and they think for 2023 about the same. So that's good, because then they are above this 5.5, but they have only an inflation rate of 2.2%. When we compare that with our countries here in Europe, they have an inflation rate from around 10%. So they have a very high growth with a very low inflation. There are still at the moment, more than 32,000 foreign direct investment projects. And this has to, you can count it as a registered capital of $381 billion. So in a conclusion, if we talk about evolutions and trends, the inflation rate is low, the growth rate is high, and the labor cost remains competitive. Plus, your free trade agreement makes Vietnam at the moment a success story. The model remains heavily dependent on foreign direct investment, of course, and future has to bring more added value. That's for what they really want to do in the nearest future. They have a low inflation rate, they have a high growth rate, the labor cost is stable, but now at the moment they are too much depending from this foreign direct investment, instead to have investments where they can create the added value in their own country. Next slide, please. If you talk about the free trade agreements, well, if you look to all the different countries who have already signed a free trade agreement, I think that what Europe has done with Vietnam is one of the, let us say, leading an example. Why I say like that? Because everything is notified in this free trade agreement. And that's very important, that everything is notified in this free trade agreement, because after there's no discussions. And it's also not only about business, but it's also, for example, things like the right to have organized unions in Vietnam, which is not so easy because it's the one-party system. It's also that they have to consider to change the governance of the Vietnamese parliament to work on a more democratic way. And that's also not so easy because they're a one-party government. So the European Union has added some things which are not directly connected with business as such, but which are quite important to be sure that Vietnam is going in a good way as, let us say, a sustainable country in all, let us say, in all senses, not only because of the green economy, but also in the democratic level, also how to manage with stakeholders, etc. And they're really eager to fulfill also that kind of topics. They have several times already been in Europe to study about these democratic values, etc. So they are really doing a big effort for that. And for the rest, everything is very good stipulated in this agreement about import tax, export taxes, and spread it up for different products, and also with the timeline. Next, please. So if you look to the to this trade agreement, like I said, it's the most comprehensive, and because it's the most comprehensive, it stimulates also trade, because you take the barriers away, you remove the barriers to invest, and this makes them for people more easy. Maybe it's a whole book and it's a thick book and with a lot of pages, but it's clear. There's no discussions afterwards because the topics are very clear. Which are the main features then in this free trade agreement? First of all, 99% elimination of custom duties has to be done, let us say, with the target of 2033. At least 65% is already in action now, gradually over a period of 7 to 10 years, but at the end, in fact, 99% has to be eliminated. Also important is that reduction of the non-tariff barriers in Vietnam will align more closely with the international standards. And this means that they have to high up their international standards, but they're working on that. This is work in progress. Third is the access to Vietnamese public procurement, which is also very important. The past war, like to have access to this public procurement, it was only possible for almost Vietnamese companies, but not for Western companies, or they have to be allied with Vietnamese companies. But also improved access to the Vietnamese service markets, like the bank and the post, and promoting sustainable development. And this is for the labor standards, the United Nations Conventions concerning, for example, the SDGs, the right to start up with unions, the interaction with stakeholders, households, enterprise legislative framework, etc. And there's a following up. It's not like we have an agreement and there's nothing that we can do about that. There's a following up, and if I have understood it very well, they have a following up within the European Commission each month, even, where they try to figure out if there's something impracticable which is not working. It's not working very good. Can we change these little things, etc.? So let us say more like an open discussion. I know that there is also 2 times a year, and then with all the countries together, that they have some stakeholders platform where they can discuss all these things. And for example, I know that the Belgian embassy and the trade agencies and also the Luxembourg and all the other countries are really involved in that process. So that's good. It's not that we have just a book, but that it's also there is a follow-up. But of course, there's still a lot to do. It's always a kind of work in progress. And the next step, which is also very important, you know, that is the IPA, that's the investment and protection. Agreement. This has to be signed, but this has to be signed not by Europe, but this has to be signed by all the parliaments in Europe. So this means also this has to be discussed in your parliament in Luxembourg, but I don't know how far it is with Luxembourg. But for example, in Belgium, Flanders have already signed it. Of course, our loan will follow soon, and then, but there's still some progress, work in progress. If we talk about the free trade agreement in Vietnam, is it known, that system, or is it not known? Well, 94% of the business has heard about it. 21% with also use of it. 70% with the benefit, and 4% say we suffered losses. And why is it then, for example, of course, because you have an increasing of the compliance costs. So what was in the past more easy to do for them, now they have to do more paperwork because it's Europe, it's about safe, health, food safety, etc., etc. But let us say that at least 21% made use of it, and that 3/4 or more, almost 80% say with the benefit, or 20% is not the benefit. Next slide, please. Another important point for me is the Sustainable Development Goals. And you have then to compare Southeast Asia as a whole. Because you see that more and more countries find that these Sustainable Development Goals are very important. And if you look to the region, then we see that Vietnam is at the 2nd place behind Thailand. All other countries on the Southeast Asia and from the ASEAN are behind Vietnam, and that's quite important. Next slide, please. And here you see where they are, let us say, good or can do better. If you see, for example, red, this means that there's still a lot to do, but you have also to look to the flesh. And if you see that the flesh is red, there you see that, okay, there's still a lot of work in progress, but you see also sometimes the green things. And I give, for example, SDG 4, which is about education. So education is good. And this is also good for the future of a country because they have a good education system and it's still going in the right sense. The same with poverty, it's yellow, but they have also increasing still at the moment this Sustainable Development Goal. And of course, you see also the problems that they have, and this is typical for countries like developing countries like Vietnam. It's about water treatment, it's about forestry, it's about climate change, etc. Next slide, please. So if you tell me why is it important to have these business opportunities in Vietnam, well, it's about, let us say, it's a prospering economy, and it's also stable. It's also, let us say, a great location for strategic investments. You have a lot of young and educated workforce, and you see in the SDGs that education is very good at the moment. And you have a lot of young people, so that's very important. And the labor cost is also competitive. You have to support the government policies. I have to say that I have a lot of contacts with the government and with the administration, and they're really too eager to learn more about how they have to improve their own system, how they can really go to a really market economy with the democratic values and with the sustainable values. And of course, favorable trade agreements like the EFTA are very in favor of that kind of reasons for investing in Vietnam. And the infrastructure, well, it's growing each day. Next slide, please. You see here just as an example some of our BVA members, but I just want to show them because that you know a little bit what our members are doing. For example, Boyd's is a consultancy company, and everything that is to do concerning sustainable constructions. IP IJsselhof is a little bit the same. They're trying to build a cold chain in the Mekong Delta so that agriculture farmers can bring their exotic fruits to these cold cabins, picked up by ships who has also these cold cabins inside, so that they can bring this exotic fruit to Europe. And why is that so important? If they don't do like this, well, what is the existing situation? They have to sell it for a too cheap price to China. And so they want to change that so that they have the more sustainable economy. Deep Sea is in Halong Bay. I don't know if you're going over there. Then, of course, you have Brussels Airport, and then you have John Cockerill, who is working on also sustainable energy. Next slide. So I will thank you. I don't know if there's some more slides included. No, but yeah, voila. That is just. I will not explain these slides, but we can just go through because I found the slides very important because here you can see a little bit how is Vietnam situated in the ASEAN countries. But I propose that everyone can receive these slides. You see this slide where you see what is the relationship between Vietnam and the ASEAN countries. This is important because then you see, let us say, how it's managed. Next slide. The same why Vietnam, once again, next slide. The population where you see that we have at least young people. Next slide. Once again, this Vietnamese extensive international integration. Next slide. What are the standard tax standards in comparison with the other ASEAN countries? It's also very nice to know, but you can look at it in detail. The next slide is then available investment incentives, what you can expect if you are investing in Vietnam, depending on what kind of typical business you're doing. And it's depending on the location, it's depending also from what you're doing, if it's importing, is it services, is it the scale, etc. And then the next slide is concerning the levels of current corporate tax incentives. And at least then you see the last slide, and this is quite also important. What are they focusing now? Of course, energy sector, of course, the automobile industry, but of course also the everything what has to do with semiconductors, pharmacy, textile industry. The retailing is important. Also, the medical equipment is important. So you see that they're really eager to have in the future that kind of business where they can create their own added value instead of only to deliver the raw materials. So I'd like to thank you very much, and I hope you have a very fruitful trade mission to Vietnam at the beginning of May. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andries, for this introduction into the economy of Vietnam, and I hope that all of you will experience this firsthand during the mission. And now I would like to give the floor to Tran Ngoc Quan, the Trade Counsellor of the Embassy of Vietnam in Brussels.
I'm sorry. Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Andries Gryffroy, for a very nice introduction on Vietnam. And I also would like to thank you, all of you, to pay attention to Vietnam and have intent to Vietnam. Now I would like to go to my PowerPoint. Do you see my PowerPoint in your? Okay, do you see it? Okay. So because Mr. Andries Gryffroy have very nice introduction on Vietnam, so I will focus on what I think that Vietnam will be the destination for your business success in Vietnam. The first question, and anyone when come to Vietnam will think why we choose Vietnam. So we have some notation right from any resources. You can see in the slide that from the US, their own ranking. Vietnam is the 12th best country to start business and 19 open for business ranking. IMF or World Bank also have very high appreciate Vietnam in their business situation. Some private company like Pricewaterhouse also recognize Vietnam is the fastest economy in the coming world, and the Korean, Italia is the 20th largest economy in 2050. So we can see that we also would like to share with you some index from economies based on the Heritage Foundation. You can see that Vietnam's scores become more and more higher, and WWF also showing the competition of Vietnam is also quite high, and BeluxCham, the representative of the European company, have recognized Vietnam is a fast-growing economy. FDI inflow forecast remains strong. Exchange rate stable, political stability, and the risk is very low since the economic crisis. So to answer for your question is why choose Vietnam, in short answer, we can say that we have a political stability and the open government, so that you can only need to focus on your business. We have a huge workforce can satisfy your need and transfer your idea to reality. You know that Zetro Japan is assess Vietnam worker is a large, skillful and low-cost workforce. We have a huge market because, and we also have a geopolitical position. We are located in the center of ASEAN, well connected to the China and Australia markets. So we can become the bridge between ASEAN and the EU with a very convenient way of seaport. You are now also will be protected by EVIPA and bilateral investment protection agreement. If we don't have an IPA, you still have about 13 protection agreement bilaterally. So I think that the investor coming to Vietnam is well protected. And so last but not least, that Vietnam always welcome you because we have the complementary economic structure and we have value to Vietnam. In short, that you are welcome in Vietnam. My second question is what Vietnam in your calculation? It means that you will what calculation what you can gain in Vietnam. For first thing is trade. People say that trade with Vietnam, you can trade with over the world. We can now have a FTA between Vietnam has covered most continents. We nearly 60 economies with up to nearly 90% of global GDP. And from the 2007, the FTA have boosted our economy and export a lot. So you can see that have Andries already mentioned. You can see the progress of Vietnam in development. With our open for trade strategy, people say that you can produce and trade with Vietnam in Vietnam, but export to all over the world with the preferential treatment. The key trade regulation is for every country. The trade is based on WTO. We have based on further favorable condition with the free trade agreement. The second point relating to investment, that in Vietnam, everything prepared, every favorable just for you. You can see that I will start for the investment limitation because in Vietnam, people say that every start will be very difficult. But when you over the difficulty of the starting jump, you can enjoy a lot of benefit. So this is the sector that we don't want people to come to Vietnam to invest, only relating to the something like illegal action. Otherwise, everything you can enjoy this. For trade investment limitation, we don't have limit anything. as Andries Gryffroy already mentioned on the in investment incentives, we can a lot of sector with four kind of incentive, like from the import duty exemption, accelerated depreciation, CIT, it means corporation income tax incentive, but exemption for reduction of land and rental. I already sent all the document to CCI, so CCI will send you later for your information. Today I will focus some slides so you can have some highlight. Some investors coming to Vietnam, they are always wonder about how they are protected. So you see that we have a signed bilateral treaty with 60 countries and to the free trade agreement. The EU also enjoy IPA, but not yet ratified. But you can have the bilateral between Vietnam and member state of EU under the law of investment to 2020. The only dispute between the investor and government will be settled to Vietnam court, Vietnam arbitrator, foreign arbitrator, international arbitrators, or arbitral tribunal established by the parties. This document you can have seen is I also attach here the summary of the way when you want to set up the company or representative office in Vietnam. This is the way you will travel through. For understand more about Vietnam, we have some fact that in Vietnam you can see that we have a lot of airports from all over the world here, all over the Vietnam. You can see we have a lot the airport, which some airport with the capacity for people and for the cargo. The biggest one in Nội Bài and Ho Chi Minh. We also have a huge seaport. You can see that Vietnam is a coastal area country. So we have a seaport nearly on my country, along my countries, which some seaport with very huge capacity, like in huyện Hải Phòng or Quảng Bình, or in Vân Phong, Khánh Hòa, or Hà Tĩnh. So just we have a lot of deep sea vessel size, maximum vessel size or cargo capacity. We also set up many the coastal economic zone. That when you come to Vietnam with the coastal economic zone, you can enjoy benefits from the coastal economic zone, also the FDI investment incentive, so that you can have many attractive conditions for your work. And on this economic zone live in the coastal area, that's very easy to reach to the port and to go to export by sea line. For all other things, you can see from the land, versatile capital markets. I think that some people also pay attention to the intellectual property. You see that we also have intellectual property to protect your idea and investments advice. For business checklist, in the end of the document is a business checklist that you will know when you come to Vietnam. You need to do something, so we have put it here, so that after you thinking come to Vietnam, you will have more information on the document, on the way you can travel through on paperwork. And we are the office, trade office of Vietnam in EU and Luxembourg and Belgium. We are sitting in here to work with you so that you can have a very successful business with Vietnam. All my information in the website, in the email, in Facebook or Twitter. It means that we are become the open electronic office that you can easily to reach with us. Or if you want to go to the physical meeting, you also go to my office, the real office, that we are always open for you. Thank you very much for the attention and see you in Vietnam. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tran, for this very nice introduction, and I think it will be very useful for all of the participants to also receive these presentations in PDF. So I think we'll make sure that all of you receive this presentation so you can go through it more in detail. Then next is not only the economy or why it's interesting to go to Vietnam, but it's important to also respect the culture and to have a brief understanding of the culture of the country that you're going to visit. So the next presentation is an introduction of the business culture of Vietnam by Ms. Nguyen Binh Diep from BVA.
I want to share my presentation to you. It is my pleasure to discuss with you about the different aspects of Vietnamese cultures so as to assist you in all your concern about the business etiquette and other formalities for the journey to Vietnam. The first thing I would like to mention is about three main characters in Vietnamese national identity. The first one is harmony. Harmony is a particularly important feature in the culture in Vietnam. The purpose of harmony is to keep societal relations in synthesis. The second one is also central to Vietnamese culture, that is humility or modesty. The value of modesty is to show a great deal of humility, where the Vietnamese people often make it by self-humbling and downplaying in their emotion. And the third one is the face. People value reputation very much. In order to save face, they will avoid confrontations with other people. This is the most embedded quality in Vietnamese culture that indicates a person's reputation, influence, dignity, and honor. So we can have some conclusions like respect or compliment people means giving them face. Being criticized or behaving inappropriate means losing face. And people speak indirectly when they disagree with someone. For greeting, Vietnamese people generally address one another by their given name. This is usually accompanied by a title based on the people's age, social relationships, and also the gender. So people may be referred to by their full name in all formal contexts. However, it is rare to address someone by their family name alone. So in case you don't know the age of your partner, you just use the impersonal structure. For greetings, I would like to mention about some basic practice. Address the persons by their title and first name. And Vietnamese are accustomed to shaking hands. Appropriate manner of greetings, gentle handshake and smile. Some Vietnamese might use two hands to shake by resting the left hand on the top of the grasp, like this. With the other people's hand, bowing the head while shaking hands indicate respect. Elders should be greeted especially respectfully. If they do not extend the hand, you just make a respectful bow instead. In countryside, it is uncommon for Vietnamese women to shake hands with men or one another. Therefore, you should wait for a woman to extend her hands first, then greeting her. If not, just give a brief bow. Public display of affections is not appreciated in Vietnam. So people just make hug between close friends or in the family. Questions about someone's family are appreciated during or after the introductions. Now I would like to introduce the basic rules of etiquette in Vietnamese culture. In Western culture, the expressions such as thank you, excuse me, or sorry are said to acknowledge minor incidents and courtesies. In Vietnam, the manner is underpinned by the value of modesty. In Vietnamese culture, the people tend only to apologize or thank when they truly believe that one's actions have indebted them or deserve gratitude. This can be considered insincere by Vietnamese, as the words are not necessarily spoken, as the words or as what you said, consider insincere if it is not truly apologized or a gesture of gratitude. So even they may think that it is hypocrisy. For example, they may not give grateful response when being offered compliments. However, the respect will be received and exhibited in different ways in Vietnam. For example, when you give something to someone, instead of saying thank you, they may say, I beg you. And there are some etiquette I would like to mention about the business culture in Vietnam. The objects should be passed and give or receive with both hands together. The feet are considered to be the dirtiest part of the body, so try not to point the soles of one's feet to one another. And the head of a person is sock, so don't touch on someone's top of the head and do not pass things over other people's head. It is rude. For the incense, just is lit for the rituals, especially in the temple or in the morning time. For the gift, the local people who offer assistance appreciate small gifts such as pen or liquor. Vietnamese people send gifts to each other in many occasions, such as for birthday or Women's Day or for the Lunar New Year. We say that is Tết. And when giving a gift, Vietnamese comment belittle it as being unworthy to the receiver. A common expression they often say that it's just a humble gift. They always may say that gift is from someone else to downplay the role they had made in the kind gestures. For example, they say that my wife gave me this to offer you. So in different to the Western people, the Vietnamese people don't commonly open the gift in front of the giver or show up their true enthusiasm to the gifts, because they think that opening gifts immediately will show the visitors that you care the value of the gifts more than their visiting, and it is slightly impolite. So they will open the gift after the visit, and then they will send thanks message to the giver. So in case if you receive a gift and you prefer opening it upon receiving, you can ask, would you mind opening it right now? And for the gift, do not give the handkerchief, knife, wallet, candle, or anything in black, as is considered a bad omen. For wedding and funeral, almost people give an envelope containing substantial amount. For eating, in Vietnamese culture, most dishes are designed to be shared with other people because communal eating is highly appreciated and encouraged in Vietnam, except for eating noodle or set meals. Vietnamese people use chopstick for the meals. So below are some etiquette that you should know when having a meal in Vietnam. The first one is do not pass food from chopstick to chopstick. Do not rest your chopstick upright in a bowl. Upright because it symbolizes the incense burning during the morning time. And the person who invites other members of a company out for a meal generally pays for the bill at the restaurant. And the next one is about communications. I would like to mention about the verbal communications. The first thing is that when almost Vietnamese people will ask if you are married or have children, and telling the Vietnamese that you are divorced or you enjoy life with our children can be intimidating experience. Not having family is regarded as a bad luck, and such people are to be pitied. Vietnamese people are generally observed as being direct verbal communicators, often understating themselves to reach their point. For the language style, in an effort to speak modestly, the Vietnamese have a tendency not to use very colorful expressions. For example, they may say they like something instead of laugh it, or they feel bad instead of awful, or that something is good instead of amazing. Furthermore, using very colorful words can be considered as to being too exaggerated and insincere. For compliment, though compliments may be received differently, some Vietnamese may politely protest or deflect kind words in an effort to remain humble. They may reply to your compliment by just a smile or saying, really? And that is some kind of expressions of Vietnamese in the verbal communications, and how they react to the agreement. Sometimes you can hear yes, yes during a conversation, but consider is that yes may be spoken to indicate that I hear you, I understand, rather than I agree with what is said. For refusal, Vietnamese people think it is polite and respectful to hide the true feelings when they disagree with your opinions. They have a tendency to keep real feelings to themselves and accept opinions from majority in order to not hurt any other person's feelings. Therefore, they often avoid showing inner negative emotions. A Vietnamese person preoccupations when saving face, so they avoid giving flat no or negative response, even when they disagree with you. Therefore, focus on hints of hesitations in terms of what is said, how it is said, and with what body language. One can usually find the underlying meaning by asking open-ended questions. For example, instead of saying, do you think this is an optimum solution? You can say, I have presented my solutions. What do you think about that? And try do not speak in a raised voice because it's considered it is improper behavior. And the next one is communications, for the nonverbal communications. The Vietnamese commonly show less emotion in their face as they communicate and often adopt a neutral expressions unless something clearly joyful is happening. Avoid interpreting this as unfriendly. For the eye contact, it is respectful to defer eye contact away from those who are of opposite gender, a higher status, or older than you. And it can be considered to be rude to stand with your hands on the hips or cross your arms when having a conversation. And for the physical contact, in Vietnam, people also generally don't hug one another or showing a physical affection to the opposite gender in public, and you should avoid backslapping or putting your arms around someone's shoulder except between close friends. In communications, smiling can be used for all sorts of emotions. It is often done as a way to modestly acknowledge what another person is saying without seeming too over-enthusiastic. Silence is an important purposefully tuned use in communication style in most Asian countries, and pausing before giving a response indicates that someone has applied appropriate thought and consideration to the questions, and be patient until they give you the answers. The symbol of OK in Vietnam is a thumb up signal. So after understanding a little bit of Vietnamese culture, I would like to say something about what we should do and we should not do. We should respect a Vietnamese person when she or he politely protests or deflect compliments you give them in an effort to remain humble. Make an effort to keep discussions harmonious and balanced. Be sensitive to Vietnamese history. It is possible the person you are interacting with may have experienced the struggles of the Vietnamese War. In some circumstances, Vietnamese people come directly to personal issues like age, marital status, finance, and occupations. Try not to be offended if an older Vietnamese person makes frank comments or asks invasive personal questions, because elders commonly inquire about people's relationship status. It is generally accepted because of the age hierarchy. And here I have some hints how to answer indirectly the following questions. When they ask you, are you married? You can say, oh, not yet, I'm still young, or I'm still looking for a right person. Why don't you have children? I need more time to well prepare for a baby. How much do you earn? So, quite good. So that is the indirectly answer the questions. So what we shouldn't do in Vietnam. In Western culture, reputation is important, but losing face won't be a big deal because reputation comes and goes overnight. For them, they don't think it is humiliating to make mistake. In contrast, the Western people, they love to learn from the mistake, and good results is more valuable than reputations. But Vietnamese people sometimes think personally they don't want to lose face. Avoid directly criticizing someone or pointing out his or her mistake. This can quickly cause Vietnamese to lose face. Don't assume that the Vietnamese have a natural alignment with China, and try not to interrupt feeling the silence when Vietnamese person is quiet during conversations. Pausing before speaking usually has a purposeful meaning behind it. And we should not break any promise that you already committed to, verbally or written. As also be aware that Vietnamese business people may take spoken words as a fact. It can be very difficult to regain their confidence once you have broken a promise. This can lead to a big loss of face and jeopardize Vietnamese person's trust and confidence in you. So don't assume that a Vietnamese person wants to talk about the Vietnam school. The next one is about the business culture. I would like to say that workplace in Vietnam have in hierarchy, and everyone has a distinct place and role in the business for making decision process. In Western culture, they often value individual. Individuals are expected to responsible for their own decisions, as such a decision is mostly decided by the person in charge. In Vietnamese culture, Vietnamese people focus on the fundamental social connection between people. The group is more important than individuals. They emphasize on how the actions and decisions would influence the group rather than themselves. That is why they prefer making decisions by collectivity in consensus with other people. So everyone will be consulted before reaching a decision, which can lead to lengthy negotiations. So you should remain patient. Don't expect things to be done quickly. When there is a point of tensions or difficulty that can't be resolved, the Vietnamese people sometimes resort to sitting in silence. This is their way of allowing the conversation to simmer back to harmony so that there is a clear space for a new topic of discussion. And Westerner often find silence like this awkward, but try not to interrupt the silence. And to avoid the loss of face, Vietnamese person may seek to resolve the issue in the workplace indirectly. For example, they may use a third person like assistant or secretary or the vice director to reject a proposal, ask for feedback or discuss problems. In the business culture, I would like to say that it is the relationship oriented. Personal relationship plays a large role in Vietnamese business culture. Vietnamese business contact is better done through referrals. Third-party introductions are almost necessity, as Vietnamese people prefer to work with those they know and trust. For them, trust is a key to good business. Their business network are often comprised of relatives and peers, as nepotism guarantees trust. They only want to expand their network with partners they can rely on. So if you display anger or lose your temper, you will lose the trust in doing business with you. All disagreement or conflict should be solved in the most diplomatic, private manner possible. And especially in your offer and contract, please do it as detailed as possible. And for the meeting, Be punctual. In Vietnamese culture, people generally enter the meeting in order of importance, the highest ranking person arriving first, and so on. The same goes for introduction. You are expected to greet everyone in the room, even if the group is large. And Vietnamese colleagues will be interested to know your age so they can address you properly. Vietnamese culture interprets the respect you show to someone's business card to be indicative of the respect you show to the individual in business. So when receiving or giving business cards, use both hands and make sure the writing is facing the other person. Allow a few moments of social conversation to pass before mentioning the business. This will help to warm up the meeting and make all the participants get closer. And in the negotiations, you should do it in a firm and fair and diplomatic manner. This is my brief presentations about business culture in Vietnam. And I would like to say thank you for your kind attentions, and I wish you a very successful trip to Vietnam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nguyen, to introduce us into the with a brief introduction to the business culture in Vietnam. I think you will all experience it firsthand, and it's very important what has been said, because yeah, personally, as I'm living here, I experience it every day.
Recording in progress.
Thank you.
So now we go over the schedule for your 3-day mission to Vietnam. So actually all of you, or the majority of you, will be flying on May 2nd and arriving on May 3rd. So May 3rd is still here a public holiday, so you can actually enjoy a welcome drink together with the team of the Chamber of Commerce of Luxembourg, so Edith and Regina. And then the next morning, we will kick off with the B2B meetings. I first will briefly give you an introduction about BeluxCham. So BeluxCham actually has been established 20 years already in Vietnam. So we have our 20-year celebration this year, which we're very happy about. So BeluxCham actually is one of the one of the smaller chambers. So we are not going to compare ourselves with the French and the German chamber yet, but the BeluxCham is actually one of the bigger, smaller chambers, and is representing a majority of SMEs that are active here in Vietnam. And they are active in a variety of industries, but one of the things that actually BeluxCham has been developing is that we play a crucial role in the ESG, so in environmental social governance. So this has been, as Andries also mentioned during his presentation, is a very important topic here in Vietnam because of the goals of the government to be zero carbon emission by 2050. And so as a chamber, we are very proud to have specialists here from Vietnam that are a member of our BeluxCham. So we actually play a good role also in the conversations with the government, the local government, as well as the federal government. So to give you an idea, on Saturday, BeluxCham has also been invited to have a meeting with the presence of the Prime Minister to give feedback on how actually foreign companies can, together with Vietnam, can collaborate better together and can grow the Vietnamese economy together. So that is actually on our schedule for Saturday morning in Hanoi. So this shows also what our vision is. We really want to engage our business community here, and we want to do this in a broad way. So we have different industries. We provide our members and beyond our members, so we collaborate with the other chamber, information regarding what's going on here in Vietnam, but also training on leadership, on agility. We are doing now an in-house series regarding, for example, Industry 4.0, etc. So our values is actually diversity, innovation, and integrity. And I think, well, very proud to say that we were the first chamber that had a the most diverse board of directors of all of the chambers, combining the gender diversity as well as the ethnic diversity. So we are very proud of that. We work closely together here in Vietnam with the Embassy of Belgium in Hanoi, the Embassy of Luxembourg in Thailand, and then the Federation of Belgium Chamber of Commerce. Of course, you know the Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce, our Flanders Investment and Trade, and the Walloon Agency, as well as the Hub Brussels. And then we have signed a MOU with BVA the beginning of this year to really tighten our relationship and to make sure that we work closer together as we are complementary. So what we are the representation of the Belgian and Luxembourg companies here in Vietnam, and they are representing the Vietnamese companies in Belgium. So there we have a very complementary collaboration. So that was about BeluxCham briefly. You will find out more about us during your visit. The most important now is that we show you through the agenda. So on the first day of the mission, we have the B2B matchmaking event. And so the registration will start in the morning at 8:30. And then Edith will start with an opening speech. Then there will be a little bit more elaborate introduction of BeluxCham by our chairman, Mr. Bart Verheyen. And then we have invited our the vice chairman of EuroCham, Mr. Jean-Jacques to give you an introduction about the EVFTA opportunity for Vietnam and the Luxembourg trade. So why is this important? Because, well, Andries already explained it, as well as Mr. Tran. But also Mr. Jean-Jacques Boufflet has been the one that has been negotiating this EVFTA directly with the government, with the federal government here in Vietnam. So he knows all the insides and outsides, and he will share that. Then after that, I want to ask you all to give a brief introduction of your company, 1 minute, 1 slide. So we will give the stage to every one of the participants to the B2B matchmaking event, so that the companies that will be there to meet with you or that are there to meet with other companies will get an idea of who you are and might be still meeting you during the speed dating business matching at the end of the day. Then there will be a brief coffee break, and then the business matching will start. During the noon, we have, of course, the networking lunch. And then at 1:30, we will start with the Southeast Asia IP SME Help Desk introduction. This is a project that has been funded by the European Union, as a lot of companies investing in ASEAN countries, so Southeast Asia, are not clear on how the IP regulations are. And so the EuroCham here has a special funded project to guide all the companies here, and would like to share with you some insights into that. There is also 10 minutes time to have Q&A with them. After that, we continue with business matchmaking, and then there's also opportunity for speed dating for whom you, the companies you might be interested to meet that have not been scheduled in advance. We are in the midst of preparing all these schedules, so you will be contacted by me and my colleague during the coming days or next week. Before you arrive in Vietnam, you will get your schedule. Please also be aware that sometimes things might change last minute. We will inform you in a timely manner. So, but I just wanted to tell you this in advance, that we will do our utmost best to make sure that you get the schedule, that the schedule will happen as planned, but we want to point out that sometimes there might be last minute changes. So that is it for day one. And then I think you have an evening to relax a little bit. There will be some jet lag. It's not too bad because now it's a summer hour, so it's only 5 hours of difference, which is quite nice. And of course, you can enjoy always the amazing weather here. Be prepared though. It's always hot, hotter, hottest. So be aware of that. There is luckily aircon everywhere inside, but the moment you're outside, you will feel it. Also slowly The rainy season is starting, so you will see some streets change into small rivers once or twice a day, as it is quite common. Then day 2, and then I leave that up to Edith.
Yes, hello again. We will now continue with the second day and start with the business forum taking place at the Hotel Park Hyatt Saigon. Minister Nguyen, the Minister of Industry and Trade of Vietnam, will welcome our Prime Minister Xavier Bettel, who will continue with a welcome address. Then will come the signing of the MOU, which is under preparation, followed by an overview of the Luxembourg economy. Our Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises and for Tourism, Mr. Lex Dallas, will start and will be followed by the President of the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Fernand Ernster. Then we will continue with the presentation of the Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce and head to the workshop, which will be moderated by Malik Seniti, which is the director of the Luxembourg cluster for logistics. And we will have 3 Luxembourg companies, 2.0, Multigon and CargoLux, which will join. And from the Vietnamese side, we have ITL and Seva Logistics. We will conclude the session with testimonials to go over to the networking lunch. A first bunch of invitations have been sent out. More will follow. We will also send invitation to people you mentioned in the registration form. So don't worry about that. And then for the afternoon, we are invited by ITL. And very promising visit. You will see here on this slide that it's one of the largest companies in Vietnam. It's quite profitable, and on the program we have the visit of the port. ITL has its own port and also a visit of the warehouse. And we will conclude the day by a dinner kindly offered again by ITL. So also the second day will be very, very enriching. And last but not least, we have a third day, and I would like to give the floor to Regina.
Thank you very much. I will quickly share my screen. Could you please let me know if you see it? Yes, okay, perfect. So about our third day, we would also like to give you an overview of a dynamic Vietnamese ecosystem. And we would like to thank our colleagues from the BeluxCham for helping to organize this very intense program. So we will meet up at 7:45 at the lobby of the hotel. And we will start with the departure to Binh Duong province. The first meeting is related to the dynamic startup ecosystem. So we will visit Block 71, which will last for about 1 hour and a half, and following by a visit of BeluxCham International Hospital, taking as well around one hour and a half. We will have business lunch at Hotel New City. Then at 1, we have a meeting with representatives of BeluxCham, which is one of the leading Vietnamese industrial and urban real estate developer. Then we also have 2 hours of visiting different entities and Binh Duong New City, and you can see it in the program. And we will also have a meeting with Boroto's Grant place at 16:30. We will conclude with the transfer back to Hotel Park Hyatt Saigon. The checkout is expected at around 6:30. And if you are taking the flight suggested by us in the program, you will leave to Paris at 22. So we hope that you will enjoy this intense and interesting day with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina and Edith. So we also here at BeluxCham are really looking forward to meeting you all in person. And I think now we have an opportunity for another 10, 15 minutes of questions from your side.
It's Connie speaking, company B Medical Systems. Hello. I have a question regarding the slide. We have to prepare for the company presentation. Shall we send you this slide beforehand, or how can we organize that?
Yes, please send it to Edith and Regina, who have been in contact with you already. So it's the same actually contacts that you had to send the questionnaire for. They will collect all of these slides and then they will turn it into one presentation to make sure that everything runs smoothly during the B2B meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. And until when do you need it at the latest?
Edith? I think here it's will be the easiest if everything by next week, Friday, so that you can put everything together and that we can test everything here in the Park Hyatt before the event starts.
Yes,
okay.
I would like to add, we will send out also a reminder to the whole group, including the recording of our session and the slides we saw this morning. I think they are very important to see that Vietnam is really changing, and also to have again a look at the etiquette, especially for the do's and don'ts before we start our meetings.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this moment?
Hey, Mr. Thuong?
Yes, thank you very much for giving me a chance. I just want to repeat my request to CCI because can you share with us some information of the Luxembourg commodities, because we need to contact them to prepare for some bilateral meeting. I see in the
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, but Lux Commodities is not joining anymore the mission.
Okay. And by the way, you know about information from Vietjet that we cooperate with you to prepare for the seminar and organization, right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So if you have any concrete needs, please can direct to them from now on, because I see some of the letter to the ambassador of Vietnam relating to of the business integration. So to save time and more effectively, if you need anything from Vietnamese side, please send direct to the contact of Vietjet. Thank you.
Yes, we are in close contact with Vietjet. That's all fine. Thank you.
I hereby also would like to take the opportunity to briefly remind some companies that do not have all the B2B meetings arranged by BeluxCham, that by 21st of April, they should send us a little bit their arrangements. So just the time slots so that we can fill in the other meetings accordingly. Thank you. I will send you also an email today or tomorrow as a reminder, but I think it's also a good platform to remind everyone about this. Thank you.
I would also like,
sorry.
sorry, Kim, to remind you not to forget about your e-visa. You cannot enter as a Luxembourger, for example, without an e-visa. It's easily done via the e-visa website. And if you do it, you have it returned in about 4 days.
Then, Chris, sorry, then I have a question. With these exemptions, it always say Germans are exempted from this e-visa. How does this then work? So is it really exempted, or should I better do an e-visa? I mean,
Let me double check, and I will get back to you today. So I will ask here with my German friend, who also is working in the German Business Association. So I'll get back. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Chris, do you have the German passport?
yes.
Okay, so because you can come to Vietnam 15 days without visa.
Okay.
It's just apply for some country, not all country. So make sure that you apply for the visa we come to Vietnam. Because Vietnam accepts visa for 15 days for some countries only.
Okay. Yeah, but 50 days should be sufficient.
Yeah, thank you.
But okay, there's a special, you believe it or not, I'm over the weekend in Vietnam, but I have to fly back to Singapore and flying in 1 day later. Would this be an issue without e-visa?
I will inform you later because I'm not sure. I'm not a visa person.
Just asking. I mean, it will not extend 15 days, so it's still within the range. So, but
Also, related to the visa, make sure that when you fill in the visa application form, it is exactly the same as what is written on your passport. There have been people that have been rejected of entry, that received the visa but have not been able to get on the plane because currently the passport changed, and some people with second or third names, it changed into only the first letter. So you have to fill in exactly what is on the passport. Just to remind you, because we heard a lot of cases where this went wrong. Okay, then I think if there's no more questions at this moment, we can finalize this briefing session. Okay. I think from my side, I would really like to thank all of you for joining this first session. Then I would like to thank all of the speakers for sharing their experience and the insights into Vietnam. And then, of course, Edith and Regina for organizing all of this and for working together closely with us for the last couple of weeks to make sure that this mission becomes a great success.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining. We are really excited to meet you. Well, in 2 weeks, time is flying now. We will try to finalize the entire program and send you some more information about the slides. If you have questions, don't hesitate to send us an email or to call us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.